Maya Rodriguez stepped off the transport shuttle and looked around at the biggest building she had ever seen. The Galactic Naval Academy stretched out in front of her like a small city made of gleaming white metal and glass. Towers rose up into the purple sky of Centauri Prime, and flying vehicles moved between them like insects around a hive. She picked up her single duffel bag and walked toward the main entrance. Around her, other new cadets were saying goodbye to their families. Some of the families were huge groups of tall, scaly beings with yellow eyes. Others were small clusters of creatures that looked like walking crystals, their bodies catching the light from the twin suns overhead. Maya was alone. Her parents were back on Earth, probably deep underground in the mining tunnels where they worked. They could not afford to come with her, and honestly she was glad. This place was fancy enough to make her feel out of place without her dad making jokes about the weird aliens. A group of cadets walked past her, and she heard one of them whisper something about the human. Maya pretended not to hear, but her face got hot anyway. She had known this would happen. Humans were new to the galactic community, and most aliens thought Earth was too dangerous for intelligent life. The lobby of the academy was even more impressive than the outside. The ceiling was so high that Maya had to tilt her head back to see it. Floating displays showed star maps and ship designs, and the walls were covered with portraits of famous graduates. Maya did not recognize any of them, but they all looked very serious and important. She joined the line of new cadets waiting to check in. In front of her stood a creature that was at least 8 feet tall, with 4 arms and skin that looked like tree bark. Behind her was something that reminded her of a giant spider, but with only 6 legs and eyes that glowed blue in the dim light. "You must be the human," said a voice next to her. Maya turned to see a being that looked almost normal if you ignored the fact that his skin was bright green and he had gills on his neck. "I am Cadet Kren Voss. I have read about your species." "Maya Rodriguez," she replied, offering her hand. Kren looked at it for a moment, then shook it carefully. "Your planet is classified as a death world," Kren said. "How did you survive long enough to get here?" Maya shrugged. "Same way everyone else does, I guess. You just pay attention and do not do stupid things." Kren's eyes widened. "But the gravity on your world is twice standard. The weather patterns are described as violently unpredictable, and the predators ... He shuddered. Double quotes. "Yeah, Earth can be rough," Maya said. "But you get used to it. My family works in the asteroid mining colonies, so I grew up in different gravity anyway." "And the weather is not that bad if you know how to read the signs?" The line moved forward, and Maya found herself at the check-in desk. The being behind the desk was one of the crystalline creatures she had seen earlier, but this one was much larger and had what looked like metals embedded in his chest. "Name?" the being asked, his voice sounding like wind chimes. "Maya Rodriguez from Earth." The crystal being's body pulsed with different colors as he searched his records. "Ah, yes, the human exchange student. You are the first of your species to attend the academy, so I have been told," Maya said. "Your test scores are adequate," the being continued, "though I note that you scored very low on the advanced mathematics sections." Maya nodded. Math had never been her strong point, especially the kind of math that involves 17 dimensions and quantum probability. "I will work harder at it. See that you do. The academy standards are not flexible." The being handed her a data pad and a key card. "Your room assignment is on the pad. Classes begin at 0600 tomorrow. Do not be late." Maya took the items and followed the directions to her dormitory. The halls were wide and filled with cadets from dozens of different species. Some floated instead of walking, others moved on tracks instead of legs. A few were so strange that Maya could not figure out which end was the front. She found her room on the 15th floor and was surprised to discover she had a roommate. The other bed was already occupied by a being that looked like a cross between a lizard and a bird with scales that shifted color as Maya watched. "You must be the human," the creature said, her voice carrying a slight hiss. "I am Zaraketh from the Saurian Republic. I've been assigned to help you adjust to academy life." "That is nice of you," Maya said, though she wondered what she was supposed to need help with. The academy can be challenging for beings from primitive worlds, Zara continued. The gravity here is only point 0.8 standard, which may make you feel strange. The atmosphere is carefully controlled, but it is different from your world's natural air and the food. I am sure I will manage, Maya said. She set her bag on the empty bed and looked around the room. It was clean and functional, with 2 beds, 2 desks, and a small bathroom. The walls were covered with screens showing star charts and academy information. The physical training will be difficult for you, Zara said. Humans are not known for their strength or speed, and the academic work requires a level of intellectual sophistication that ... Zara, Maya interrupted gently. I appreciate your concern, but I am here for the same reason you are. I passed the entrance exams, I can handle the work. Zara's scales shifted to a darker color. Of course. I did not mean to suggest otherwise. It is just that Deathworld species often have difficulty adapting to civilized environments. Maya had heard this before. Most aliens assumed that because Earth was dangerous, humans must be primitive. They did not understand that living on a dangerous world made you careful and tough, not stupid. She unpacked her few belongings and placed them in the desk drawer. Her clothes were simple and practical, nothing like the decorative uniforms some of the other cadets wore. Her only luxury was a small photograph of her parents, taken the day she left for the academy. The next morning, Maya woke up before her alarm. She had always been an early riser, a habit learned from years of working in the mines where the best shifts started before dawn. Zara was still sleeping, her scales a pale blue color that probably meant she was dreaming. Maya dressed quietly and went to the cafeteria for breakfast. The food was strange but not bad, though she found herself missing the hearty meals her mother used to make. She sat alone at a corner table and watched the other cadets eat their various meals. Some drank liquids that glowed, others consumed what looked like rocks, and a few seemed to absorb energy directly from heat lamps. "Mind if I sit here?" asked a voice. Maya looked up to see a cadet who looked almost human, except for the fact that his skin was bright blue and he had silver hair. "Sure," Maya said. "I am Maya." "Danny Chun," the cadet replied. "I am from the Rigel colonies. My great-great-grandmother was human, so I guess that makes us almost related." Maya smiled. It was nice to meet someone who did not immediately start talking about death worlds and primitive species. "What do you think of the academy so far?" Danny asked. "It is impressive," Maya said. "Different from what I expected, but impressive." "Wait until you see the training facilities," Danny said. "The gravity chambers alone are worth the trip. They can simulate conditions from anywhere in the galaxy." Maya nodded politely, though. She wondered why anyone would need to simulate different gravity when you could just go to a planet that had it naturally. But she was learning that what seemed normal to her was often considered impossible by others. The first day of classes was about to begin, and Maya had no idea that she was about to change everything the academy thought it knew about limits. 3 months into her time at the academy, Maya had settled into a routine that puzzled her instructors. While other cadets struggled with the demanding schedule, she seemed to treat everything as just another day. Her grades were average in most subjects, but there were strange moments that made her teachers look twice. During zero-gravity training, Instructor Vex had watched Maya move through the chamber like she had been born in space. Other cadets bounced off walls and spun helplessly. But Maya pushed off surfaces with perfect timing and landed exactly where she wanted to be. "Have you trained in zero-gravity before?" Vex asked her after class. "Sort of," Maya said. "The mining ships I grew up on had gravity that would cut out sometimes." "You learned to move around without it," Vex nodded slowly. The mining colonies were known for their old, unreliable equipment. What he did not understand was how someone could learn to be comfortable in zero-gravity from just occasional equipment failures. In combat training, Maya's performance was even more confusing. She was not the strongest cadet or the fastest, but she never seemed to get tired. During a particularly brutal exercise that left most cadets gasping on the floor, Maya was still standing and asking if they were going to do more. Your heart rate barely increased, said Dr. Kellen, the Academy's medical officer, as she reviewed Maya's readings. Are you feeling well? I feel fine, Maya said. That was a pretty good workout. Dr. Kellen looked at her scanner again. According to the readouts, Maya's body was operating at what would be considered a resting state for most species. But she had just completed an exercise that typically pushed cadets to their physical limits. The announcement came on a Tuesday morning during breakfast. Admiral Korath Voss, the Academy's commandant, stood at the front of the dining hall and called for attention. He was a large saurian with dark green scales and eyes that seemed to see everything. Cadets, he began, his voice carrying easily through the large room. In 6 weeks you will face the final examination. This test has been used for 500 years to determine which of you are ready to become officers in the Galactic Fleet. Maya looked around at her fellow cadets. Some looked excited, others worried. She felt curious more than anything else. The examination consists of 5 major sections, Admiral Voss continued. Engineering and technical skills, physical endurance, zero-gravity combat, tactical thinking, and leadership under pressure. The current record is held by Commander Zephyr Kolthek, who completed all sections in 47 standard hours. A murmur ran through the dining hall. Everyone had heard of Commander Kolthek. He was a legend from the warrior race known as the Vorthak, beings who were bred for combat and had reflexes faster than most species could even see. The examination begins at 0600 on the 15th of next month, Admiral Voss said. Use your time wisely. Not all of you will pass. After the announcement, the Academy buzzed with nervous energy. Cadets formed study groups and spent extra hours. In the training facilities, Maya found herself invited to join several groups, though she was not sure why. You should study with us, said Kren, the green-skinned cadet she had met on her first day. We have been working on the technical problems that typically appear on the examination. Maya looked at the group of cadets gathered around a table, covered with star charts and engineering diagrams. They were all species known for their intelligence, crystal beings whose minds worked like computers, and gas-form entities who could process information faster than any organic brain. I am not sure I would be much help, Maya said. I am not great at the advanced math. But you have practical experience, said Zara, Maya's roommate. You grew up working with real equipment under real conditions. That might be useful. Maya joined the study group, though she found herself more often helping others understand the practical applications of what they were learning rather than learning new concepts herself. When they studied life support systems, she found herself explaining how to fix an air recycler with spare parts and basic tools. Where did you learn that? Asked Jeanne, a crystalline being whose body pulsed with different colors when she was thinking. My mom taught me, Maya said. In the mining colonies, you have to be able to fix anything with whatever you have on hand. You cannot always wait for the right parts to arrive. The study sessions revealed something that Maya had not expected. While she struggled with the theoretical aspects of engineering, she had an intuitive understanding of how things worked that came from years of hands-on experience. She could look at a diagram of a fusion reactor and immediately see potential. Problems that the others missed, physical training became more intense as the examination approached. Maya noticed that while other cadets pushed themselves harder and harder, she simply maintained her usual routine. She ran the same distances, lifted the same weights, and did the same exercises she had been doing since her first week. Are you not concerned about the physical portions of the examination? Asked Danny Chun during one of their morning runs. Should I be? Maya asked. She was not even breathing hard while Danny was starting to show signs of effort. The endurance test is supposed to be brutal, Danny said. Cadets have been hospitalized from it. Maya considered this. What exactly do they make you do? Nobody knows for sure, Danny said. But the rumors say it involves carrying heavy equipment through difficult terrain for hours without rest. Maya nodded. That sounded like a normal day in the mining colonies. Her parents had been carrying heavy equipment through dangerous terrain since before she was born. She had been doing it since she was old enough to help Dot. As the weeks passed, Maya began to notice that her approach to problems was different from her classmates. When faced with a difficult engineering challenge, other cadets would spend hours calculating optimal solutions. Maya would look at the problem and think about how her parents would handle it with limited resources and no backup. During a particularly challenging simulation, the class was presented with a damaged ship that was losing atmosphere. Most cadets immediately began working through the standard repair procedures they had memorized. Maya looked at the damage and started pulling panels off the walls. "What are you doing?" asked Instructor Vex. "Making patches," Maya said. She had found some flexible material and was cutting it to fit over the holes in the ship's hull. "The standard patches will not work on damage this size, but if you layer this material and seal it with emergency foam, it should hold until you can get to a repair station." The instructor ran the simulation. Maya's improvised repair worked perfectly, and it took less than half the time of the standard procedure. "Where did you learn that technique?" the instructor asked. "My dad," Maya sighed. "He says that in space, everything is trying to kill you, so you use whatever works." Word of Maya's unconventional solutions began to spread among the faculty. She was not the best student in any single subject, but she had a way of approaching problems that none of them had seen before. Her solutions were practical, efficient, and often surprisingly elegant. Dr. Kellen continued to monitor Maya's physical condition and was increasingly puzzled by the results. Maya's body seemed to operate at a level of efficiency that should have been impossible. She consumed less food than other cadets, needed less sleep, and showed no signs of stress despite the Academy's demanding schedule. "I would like to run some additional tests," Dr. Kellen told Maya during a routine checkup. "Is something wrong?" Maya asked. "No, quite the opposite," Dr. Kellen said. "I am trying to understand how your physiology works. Your species is fascinating." Maya shrugged. "We just do what we have to do." As the examination date grew closer, Maya found herself in an odd position. While other cadets were studying frantically and pushing themselves to exhaustion, she was spending her time helping others prepare. She tutored struggling students in practical applications, helped injured cadets with their physical therapy, and even shared her food with those who were too nervous to eat. "You should be focusing on your own preparation," Zara told her one evening. "I am prepared," Maya said, "and helping others helps me understand the material better." What Maya did not know was that Admiral Voss had been watching her carefully. He had seen many cadets over his long career, and he had learned to recognize different types of potential. Some cadets were brilliant, others were strong, and a few had the rare quality of natural leadership. Maya was something different. She had a quiet competence that inspired confidence in others. She never boasted about her abilities, never made others feel inferior, and never sought attention. But when problems arose, people naturally looked to her for solutions. The night before the examination, Maya slept peacefully while her roommate tossed and turned with anxiety. She had no idea that in the next few days she would redefine what the Academy thought was possible. The examination hall was larger than Maya had expected. Hundreds of cadets sat at individual stations, each equipped with multiple screens and input devices designed for different species. Some cadets had tentacles that moved over complex control panels, while others used thought interface devices that connected directly to their crystalline minds. Maya looked at her human standard keyboard and monitor. It seemed simple compared to the elaborate setups around her, but she was comfortable with simple. "Cadets," announced Admiral Voss over the intercom system, "you will have 48 hours to complete all 5 sections of the examination. You may tackle them in any order you choose, but remember that the current record stands at 47 hours. Begin now." Around her, cadets immediately dove into their chosen sections. Maya could hear the rapid clicking of keys, the hum of energy, as various devices activated, and the occasional frustrated sigh as someone encountered a difficult problem. Maya read through the examination overview first. The engineering section required her to diagnose and repair a complex system failure on a simulated starship. The physical endurance test involved carrying equipment through a challenging obstacle course. Zero-gravity combat meant fighting against computer-controlled opponents in a weightless environment. The tactical section presented various military scenarios that required strategic thinking. The leadership portion would test her ability to command a team through a crisis, she decided. To start with the engineering section, since that seemed most straightforward. The simulation loaded, showing her the interior of a damaged cargo ship. Warning lights flashed red throughout the vessel, and status displays showed multiple system failures. Maya walked through the simulated ship, looking at the damage. The main power distribution center had been hit by some kind of energy weapon, and the blast had cascaded through several connected systems. Life support was failing, artificial gravity was unstable, and the engines were offline. Other cadets would have started with diagnostic procedures, running comprehensive system checks to identify each individual problem. Maya instead followed the power conduits with her eyes, tracing the damage from the initial impact through the rest of the ship. She found the main problem quickly. The energy weapon had overloaded the primary power coupling, which had sent a feedback surge through the entire electrical system. Most of the apparent failures were just components that had shut down to protect themselves from the surge. Instead of repairing each system individually, Maya went to the ship's spare parts locker and found a replacement power coupling. She swapped it out, then began a systematic reset of the ship's systems. One by one, the red warning lights turned green as systems came back online. The entire repair took her less than 2 hours. According to the simulation timer, the previous record for this section was 5 hours and 23 minutes. Maya moved on to the physical endurance test. The course was set up in a large chamber with variable gravity and environmental conditions. She had to carry a 40-kilogram pack through a series of obstacles while the gravity gradually increased from standard to twice normal. The pack felt familiar on her shoulders. It was about the same weight as the tool bags she had carried through the mining tunnels back home. The obstacles were challenging, but not impossible. Climbing walls, crawling through narrow spaces, and jumping across gaps while the gravity tried to pull her down. What Maya did not realize was that the course was designed to push cadets to their absolute physical limits. The weight of the pack, combined with the increasing gravity, was supposed to exhaust even the strongest species by the halfway point. Maya reached the halfway point and checked her time. She was making good progress, but she was not particularly tired. The gravity was now at 1.5 times standard, which was still less than Earth's natural gravity. The pack felt heavy, but not unbearably so. She continued through the course, climbing over barriers and ducking under obstacles. The gravity reached twice standard, the same as her home planet. Maya actually felt more comfortable now, moving with the easy confidence of someone who had grown up in high gravity. She completed the endurance course in 3 hours and 47 minutes, beating the previous record by more than 2 hours. The monitoring system flagged her biometric readings as potentially malfunctioning, since they showed stress levels that indicated light exercise rather than extreme exertion. The zero-gravity combat section was next. Maya entered a large spherical chamber where she faced off against holographic opponents controlled by the Academy's combat AI. The AI was programmed to provide increasingly difficult challenges, adapting to each cadet's skill level and fighting style. Maya's first opponent was a standard humanoid figure armed with a practice weapon. She pushed off from the chamber wall and moved toward it, using her momentum to strike while passing by. The hologram dissolved, and 2 more opponents appeared. The AI quickly realized that Maya was more skilled in zero gravity than most cadets. It increased the number of opponents and gave them more advanced weapons. Maya adapted smoothly, using the 3-dimensional space to her advantage and never staying in one place long enough for the opponents to target her effectively. As the challenges grew more difficult, Maya found herself fighting multiple opponents with different movement patterns and weapon types. She used the chamber's surfaces to change direction unpredictably, and her timing was precise enough to strike opponents at the exact moment they were most vulnerable. The AI began to struggle. It was designed to provide realistic combat scenarios. But Maya's fighting style was unlike anything in its programming. She moved through zero gravity with an intuitive understanding that came from years of working in variable gravity environments. After 2 hours of increasingly complex battles, the AI reached its maximum difficulty setting. Maya had defeated every challenge it could present, and her combat efficiency was actually improving as she became more familiar with the system. The tactical section presented Maya with a series of military scenarios. In each one, she commanded a small fleet of ships facing superior enemy forces. The scenarios were designed to test strategic thinking under pressure, and most cadets struggled with the complex variables involved. Maya approached each scenario the same way her parents had taught her to approach problems in the mining colonies. She looked for the simplest solution that would work, rather than trying to find the perfect solution. In the first scenario, she was outnumbered 3-1 by enemy ships. Instead of trying to fight them directly, she used her knowledge of ship operations to target their power systems. By knocking out the enemy's main power, she disabled their weapons and left them helpless. The second scenario involved protecting a civilian convoy from raiders. Maya positioned her ships to use the convoy's own mass as cover, turning the civilians from a liability into a tactical advantage. Each scenario grew more complex, but Maya's solutions remained elegantly simple. She thought about what would actually work in real combat, not what looked impressive on a tactical display. The monitoring faculty began to notice that Maya's examination was proceeding unusually quickly. She was not just completing sections faster than other cadets, she was completing them faster than the previous records by significant margins. Her approach is completely unconventional, observed Dr. Kellen, watching Maya's progress on the monitoring screens. But it works, said Instructor Vex. Her solutions are not just fast, they are better than the standard approaches. Admiral Voss watched Maya's progress with growing interest. In his long career, he had seen many exceptional cadets, but none who made the impossible look routine. Maya began the final section, the leadership test. This scenario placed her in command of a damaged space station with a crew of different species. The station was under attack, life support was failing, and several crew members were injured. The test was designed to force cadets to make difficult choices. They had to decide which systems to prioritize, which crew members to save, and how to allocate limited resources. Most cadets found themselves having to sacrifice some objectives to achieve others. Maya read through the scenario and immediately began issuing orders. She assigned crew members to tasks based on their species' natural abilities, organized repair teams that could work efficiently together, and established a clear chain of command. But instead of accepting the scenario's premise that she had to choose between competing priorities, Maya began looking for ways to accomplish everything simultaneously. She reorganized the repair schedule to work on multiple systems at once, used creative resource allocation to stretch their supplies, and found ways to protect the crew while maintaining their operational effectiveness. The scenario AI, like the combat AI before it, began to struggle. Maya was not just managing the crisis, she was solving it completely. She was saving crew members that the scenario assumed would be lost, repairing systems that should have been written off, and maintaining station operations that should have been impossible. As Maya worked through the leadership challenges, something remarkable happened. The other sections of her examination began to connect. Her engineering solutions informed her tactical decisions. Her physical endurance allowed her to maintain peak performance while other cadets tired. Her zero. Maya walked back to her dormitory room, expecting to find Zara still taking the examination. Instead, she found her roommate pacing back and forth, her scales shifting through different shades of green and blue. Maya, Zara said, spinning around. As soon as she heard the door, "What are you doing here? The examination is not over for another day." "I finished," Maya said. Setting down her bag and sitting on her bed, Zara's scales turned pale yellow, which Maya had learned meant confusion. "Finished? All of it?" "Yeah, all 5 sections." Maya pulled off her boots and rubbed her feet. Endurance course had been a good workout, but nothing compared to a full day in the mining tunnels. That is impossible, Zara said. The record is 47 hours. You have only been gone for 23 hours. Maya shrugged. I guess I work faster than most people. Before Zara could respond, there was a knock at the door. Maya opened it to find Dr. Kellen standing in the hallway with a portable medical scanner in her hands. Cadet Rodriguez, Dr. Kellen said. I need to run some tests. There are questions about your examination performance. What kind of questions? Maya asked. The kind that suggest either our equipment is malfunctioning or you are not entirely human, Dr. Kellen said. May I come in? Maya stepped aside and let the doctor enter. Dr. Kellen immediately began scanning Maya with her medical equipment. Frowning at the readings, your stress hormones are at normal levels, Dr. Kellen said. Your heart rate is 68 beats per minute. Your muscle tension indicates you are relaxed. According to these readings, you spent the last 23 hours taking a pleasant walk. It was not that easy, Maya said. Some of the tactical problems were pretty tricky. Dr. Kellen looked at her scanner again. Cadet Rodriguez, do you understand what you accomplished today? I took a test, Maya said. You did not just take a test? Dr. Kellen said. You rewrote the standards for what we thought was possible. The engineering section that took you 2 hours typically takes 5 to 8 hours. The endurance course that you completed in under 4 hours has never been finished in less than 6 hours. And the combat simulation. Dr. Kellen paused and consulted her datapad. The combat simulation reached maximum difficulty and then stopped because it ran out of challenges to give you. That has never happened before. Maya felt uncomfortable with the attention. I just did what seemed right. What seemed right, Doctor? Kellen repeated. Cadet Rodriguez, you scored perfectly on every section while completing the entire examination in half the time of the previous record. That does not just happen because something seems right. Word of Maya's performance spread through the academy faster than she had expected. When she went to the cafeteria for dinner, conversations stopped as she passed. Cadets who had never spoken to her before came over to ask questions. Is it true you finished the entire examination in one day? Asked a tall, thin cadet with silver skin. How did you beat the combat simulation? Asked another. Can you really carry twice your body weight in double gravity? Maya tried to answer their questions, but her responses seemed to make them more confused rather than less. She kept explaining that she had just done what made sense, but nobody seemed to understand what she meant. Danny Chun found her at a corner table, looking overwhelmed by the attention. Pretty crazy day, he said, sitting down across from her. I do not understand why everyone is making such a big deal about it, Maya said. It was just a test. Maya, Danny said gently, you broke a 500-year-old record. By a lot. People are going to make a big deal about it. But I did not try to break any records, Maya said. I just answered the questions and did the exercises. That is what makes it so impressive, Danny said. You made it look easy. The next morning, Maya was called to Admiral Voss's office. She had never been inside the commandant's personal office before, and she was surprised by how simple it was. The walls were covered with star charts and photographs of academy graduating classes, but there were no fancy decorations or expensive furniture. Admiral Voss sat behind a plain metal desk, reading from a datapad. He looked up as Maya entered, and gestured for her to sit in the chair across from him. Cadet Rodriguez, he said, we need to discuss your examination results. Yes, sir, Maya said. Did I do something wrong? Wrong? Admiral Voss's scaled face showed what might have been amusement. No, Cadet, you did not do anything wrong. You did everything right? That is the problem. Maya waited for him to explain. Your performance yesterday has created a situation we have never faced before, Admiral Voss continued. You did not just pass the examination, you redefined what passing means. Your scores are so far above the previous records that we are having to recalibrate our entire grading system. I am sorry, sir, Maya said. I did not mean to cause problems. You did not cause problems, Cadet. You solved them. Problems we did not even know we had. Admiral Voss set down his datapad and looked directly at Maya. Tell me, what did you think of the examination? Maya considered the question. It was interesting, sir. Some of the scenarios were more complex than I expected, but the basic problems were not too different from things I have dealt with before. Not too different from things you have dealt with before, Admiral Voss repeated. Cadet Rodriguez, you are 19 years old. When exactly did you deal with situations involving damaged starships, military tactics, and zero-gravity combat? Well, not exactly those things, Maya said. But growing up in the mining colonies, you learn to fix equipment that breaks down. You learn to work in different gravity conditions, and you learn to think about how to get things done with limited resources. And the leadership scenarios? Maya thought about that. My parents always said that when things go wrong, someone has to step up and make decisions. Usually that someone is whoever is closest to the problem, Admiral Voss nodded slowly. What? Do you know about the history of this examination, Cadet? Not much, sir. I know it has been used for 500 years. It was designed by a committee of the finest military minds from 12 different species, Admiral Voss said. They created it to test the absolute limits of what we believed an officer candidate could achieve. The scenarios were designed to be barely possible, requiring candidates to push themselves beyond what they thought they could do. He stood up and walked to one of the star charts on the wall. For 500 years, this examination has been the ultimate test of military potential. Cadets have trained for years just to attempt it. Many have failed entirely. Those who passed did so by giving everything they had. Admiral Voss turned back to Maya. You walked through it like it was a routine training exercise. I do not understand. What you want me to say, sir? Maya said. I want you to help me understand something, Admiral Voss said. The examination scenarios were designed to force impossible choices. Candidates had to decide which objectives to sacrifice in order to achieve others, but you did not sacrifice anything. You accomplished objectives that we designed to be mutually exclusive. They were not really impossible, Maya said. They just required thinking about the problems differently. Differently how? Maya tried to find the right words. The scenarios assumed that resources were limited and that you had to choose between competing priorities. But if you look at the available resources more carefully, and if you think about how to use them more efficiently, you can often find ways to accomplish more than you initially thought possible. Admiral Voss stared at her for a long moment. Cadet Rodriguez, do you realize that you just described the fundamental challenge of military leadership? I guess so, sir. You guess so, Admiral Voss said. Cadet, what you call thinking about problems differently, military strategists have been trying to figure out for centuries. You did it instinctively. There was a long pause. Maya was not sure if she was supposed to respond, so she stayed quiet. There's something else we need to discuss, Admiral Voss said finally. Your examination performance has attracted attention from beyond the Academy. The military commands of several allied species want to understand how you achieved what you did. What kind of attention? Maya asked. The kind that could change your career path significantly, Admiral Voss said. There are offers for advanced training programs, special assignments, and research projects. Everyone wants to study the human approach to problem solving. Maya felt uncomfortable again. I do not want to be studied, sir. I just want to be an officer. And you will be an excellent officer, Admiral Voss said. But you may find that your definition of what being an officer means will expand considerably. He walked back to his desk and picked up another datapad. I am recommending you for immediate advancement to the senior officer track. Your examination scores qualify you for positions that typically require years of additional training. What does that mean? Maya asked. It means, Cadet Rodriguez, that you have just changed the course of your life in ways you probably do not yet understand. Admiral Voss sat back down. It also means that you are going to be very busy for the next few months. Maya left the Admiral's office with more questions than answers. She had thought that completing the examination would be the end of her time at the Academy, but it seemed like it was just the beginning of something much bigger. As she walked Back to her dormitory, she passed groups of cadets who were still. 2 weeks after the examination, Maya stood in the academy's main auditorium wearing her dress uniform. The large hall was packed with cadets, faculty, and visitors from across the galaxy. She had never seen so many different species in one place. Before Admiral Voss stepped up to the podium at the front of the auditorium. His voice carried easily through the hall without amplification. Today we celebrate the graduation of the Academy's newest class of officers, he began. This class has shown exceptional dedication and skill. But today, we also acknowledge something unprecedented in the Academy's 500-year history. Maya felt her stomach tighten. She had hoped that her record-breaking performance would be quietly noted and then forgotten. Instead, it seemed to be the focus of the entire graduation ceremony. Cadet Maya Rodriguez, Admiral Voss continued, has not only broken the previous examination record, she has redefined what we believe possible for an officer candidate. Her performance has forced us to reconsider our fundamental assumptions about leadership, problem-solving, and the nature of military excellence. The audience turned to look at Maya. She saw faces she recognized from her classes, but also many she did not. Some of the visitors wore uniforms from different species, military forces. Others appeared to be civilians, possibly scientists or government officials. The examination record stood for 500 years, Admiral Voss said. It was held by Commander Zephyr Kolthak of the Vorthak warrior caste, widely considered one of the finest military minds of his generation. His time was 47 hours and 12 minutes. The Admiral paused, letting the significance of that record sink in for those who might not know the history. Cadet Rodriguez completed the same examination in 23 hours and 14 minutes, he continued. She achieved perfect scores in all 5 sections while completing the test in less than half the previous record time. Murmurs ran through the audience. Maya had heard these numbers before, but hearing them announced to such a large group made them seem more real and more overwhelming. But the truly remarkable aspect of Cadet Rodriguez's performance, Admiral Voss said, was not the speed or the scores, it was the approach. She solved problems that were designed to be barely solvable by finding solutions that were both elegant and practical. Maya wished she could disappear. She had not asked for this attention, and she still did not understand why everyone was making such a big deal about her performance. The examination scenarios have been analyzed by military strategists from 12 different species, Admiral Voss continued. The consensus is that Cadet Rodriguez's solutions represent a new approach to military problem-solving, one that could change how we think about leadership and tactics. At this point, Admiral Voss gestured for Maya to join him on the platform. She walked up the steps, feeling like every eye in the auditorium was focused on her. Cadet Rodriguez, Admiral Voss said, "Would you like to say a few words about your experience?" Maya looked out at the sea of faces. She had never spoken in front of such a large group before, and she had no idea what she was supposed to say. "I did not try to break any records," she said, her voice barely carrying to the back of the auditorium. "I just tried to solve the problems, the best way I knew how." "And where did you learn to solve problems that way?" Admiral Voss prompted. Maya thought about it. "From my parents, I guess, and from growing up in the mining colonies. When things break down in space, you cannot wait for perfect solutions. You have to use whatever you have and make it work. Can you give us an example?" Admiral Voss asked. Maya considered the question. Well, in the examination's engineering section, the main power coupling was damaged. A standard repair procedure would have involved replacing multiple components and running extensive diagnostics. But I could see that most of the apparent failures were just protective shutdowns. So I replaced the coupling and reset the systems. It was faster and used fewer resources. "And that approach came from your experience in the mining colonies?" "Yes, sir," Maya said. "My dad always said that the best solution is usually the simplest one that works." Admiral Voss nodded. "Ladies and gentlemen, what you have just heard represents a fundamental shift in how we approach military engineering. Cadet Rodriguez did not just repair the damaged systems faster, she did it better. The admiral turned back to Maya. Tell us about the leadership scenarios. Maya was becoming more comfortable speaking, though she still felt strange having so many people listen to her every word. The scenarios assumed that you had to choose between competing priorities. But if you think about the available resources more carefully, you can often find ways to accomplish more than you initially thought possible. For example, in the damaged space station scenario, I was supposed to choose between saving crew members and maintaining station operations. But I realized that the crew members could help with the operations if I organized them properly. Instead of choosing between objectives, I found ways to use one objective to support the other. Admiral Voss smiled. And once again, this approach came from your background? Yes, sir. In the mining colonies, everyone has to help with everything. You cannot afford to have people sitting idle when there is work to be done. I see. Admiral Voss turned back to the audience. What Cadet Rodriguez has described is a leadership philosophy that prioritizes collaboration and resource maximization over traditional hierarchical decision-making. Her approach achieved results that our examination designers thought were impossible. Maya was beginning to understand why her performance had attracted so much attention. It was not just that she had completed the examination quickly, it was that she had approached the problems in ways that nobody had expected. The Academy's mission, Admiral Voss continued, is to train the finest officers in the galaxy. For 500 years, we have defined excellence according to certain standards. Today, we acknowledge that those standards were incomplete. He gestured to a display screen that showed the Academy's traditional motto, excellence through discipline. Effective immediately, Admiral Voss said, the Academy will adopt a new motto that reflects the lessons we have learned from Cadet Rodriguez's performance. The display screen changed to show the old motto with a new line added below it. No one left behind. These words, Admiral Voss said, represent the core of the human approach to leadership. They remind us that true excellence is not just about individual achievement, but about lifting others up along the way. Maya felt a strange mix of pride and embarrassment. She had not intended to change anything about the Academy, but apparently she had changed everything. Cadet Rodriguez, Admiral Voss said, you have been offered positions with several different military commands. Have you decided which assignment you will accept? Maya had spent the last 2 weeks thinking about this decision. The offers were impressive advanced training programs, research positions, and command opportunities that would normally require years of experience. But one assignment had stood out to her. I have accepted a position aboard the exploration vessel Horizon, she said. It is a joint species mission to explore the Outer Rim territories. An interesting choice, Admiral Voss said. May I ask? Why? The Outer Rim is dangerous and unpredictable, Maya said. The crews will be small and far from support. They will need people who can solve problems with limited resources and work well with different species. It seems like a good fit for someone from Earth. Admiral Voss chuckled. Indeed it does. The Horizon is fortunate to have you. The ceremony continued with the graduation of the rest of the class, but Maya found herself thinking about the future. She had come to the Academy hoping to become a competent officer. Instead, she had somehow become a symbol of a new approach to leadership. After the ceremony, Maya was surrounded by people wanting to talk to her. Scientists asked about her problem-solving methods. Military officers wanted to understand her tactical thinking. Government officials discussed the implications of human approaches to leadership. Danny Chun found her during a brief break in the conversations. So how does it feel to be famous? He asked. Weird, Maya said. I still do not understand what I did that was so special. That is what makes it special, Danny said. You did impossible things and made them look routine. That is pretty amazing. Maya looked around at the crowd of people still waiting to talk to her. I just want to be a good officer. You already are, Danny said. And now you are going to help other people become good officers too. Maya spent the next few hours answering questions and accepting congratulations. Many of the conversations were about the technical aspects of her examination performance, but some were more personal. My daughter is applying to the academy next year, said a Saurian officer. She is nervous about the physical requirements. What advice would you give her? Just do your best, Maya said. And remember that everyone has different strengths. The academy needs people who can solve different kinds of problems. My son failed the examination last year, said a crystalline being. He was too focused on finding perfect solutions. How do you decide when a solution is good enough? Maya thought about this. My mom always said that a solution that works is better than a perfect solution that you never finish. Sometimes you have to trust that good enough really is good enough.